Most people think dementia starts with forgetting names, with losing keys, with the small memory slips that everyone notices and jokes about. But here is what the research published in July 2026 by the Washington Post and confirmed by the Alzheimer's Association is now making impossible to ignore. The brain changes that lead to dementia begin 15 to 20 years before any obvious cognitive symptom appears. 15 to 20 years, which means by the time you forget a name, the underlying biological process has already been running since your 40s. And the 7 signs we are covering today are not memory problems. They are the signals that appear years before memory is affected. Signs that most doctors are not trained to connect to dementia. Signs that most people dismiss as stress or aging or just having a bad week. Today, we are going to stop dismissing them. But first, I need to tell you something that changes how you think about dementia completely. Dementia is not a disease that arrives. It is a disease that builds. Research published in the 2026 Alzheimer's Disease Facts and Figures confirmed that levels of beta amyloid, the toxic protein that accumulates in Alzheimer's brains, begin rising significantly up to 22 years before symptoms are expected to develop. 22 years, which means the biological foundation of dementia is being laid in your 40s and early 50s, decades before any diagnosis is possible with current clinical tools. The Alzheimer's Association announced in March 2026 a pivotal shift from responding to symptoms after they appear to identifying risk of cognitive decline years before symptoms begin through blood-based biomarkers and digital cognitive tools. But you do not need a blood test to notice the early signals. Your body is already sending them, and here are 7 of them. Sign 1. Difficulty adapting when circumstances change. New research from Texas A and M Health published in July 2026 found that difficulty adapting when circumstances change may appear even earlier than memory loss, suggesting that by the time memory problems become noticeable, disease-related brain changes may already be well underway. If you find yourself increasingly rigid about routines, not just preferring them but feeling genuinely distressed when they are disrupted, this is worth paying attention to. Sign 2. Getting lost in familiar places. Researchers at Flinders University published findings in August 2026 showing that spatial navigation difficulties, getting lost in familiar environments, or finding it harder to navigate places you know well, are among the earliest detectable signs of cognitive change, appearing before memory complaints in many cases. This is not about forgetting where you parked. It is about a genuine change in your ability to orient yourself in environments you have navigated for years. Sign 3. Depression or anxiety developing after 55. Research published in July 2026 confirmed that depression and anxiety developing later in life, particularly around age 55 or 60, could be a warning sign for dementia, suggesting that brain network changes happening early in dementia affect mental health before cognitive decline becomes obvious. If you or someone you know has developed significant mood changes in midlife without obvious cause, this deserves more than a prescription for antidepressants. Sign 4. Increasing irritability and agitation without explanation. Irritability and agitation are common neuropsychiatric symptoms found in Alzheimer's disease and usually occur before cognitive decline, with research showing that over 50% of people with mild cognitive impairment already show these behavioral changes, not occasional frustration, a pattern of disproportionate irritability that represents a change from your baseline personality. Sign 5. Falling for financial scams or making unusual financial decisions. A study led by researchers at the University of Southern California found that people who had brain changes associated with early Alzheimer's were more vulnerable to financial scams, with researchers concluding that assessing financial vulnerability in older adults could help identify those in the early stages of mild cognitive impairment. The prefrontal cortex, which handles financial judgment and risk assessment, is one of the first regions affected by the early biological changes of dementia. Sign 6. Clogged brain drainage systems visible on MRI. This one is not something you feel. It is something that shows up on imaging. Researchers discovered in 2026 that clogged brain drainage systems, easily seen on standard MRI scans, show up early in people at risk of Alzheimer's disease, tied to the same toxic protein buildup linked to memory loss and cognitive decline. If you have had a brain MRI and your doctor mentioned anything about white matter changes or enlarged perivascular spaces, this is the mechanism behind it, and it is connected to the same glymphatic system we covered in our sleep video. The drains that clear amyloid beta during deep sleep are becoming blocked. Sign 7. Elevated p-tau 217 in blood. Research presented at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in 2026 confirmed that just as high cholesterol can signal future heart attack risk, elevated p-tau 217, a protein detectable in a standard blood test, may signal future risk of cognitive decline years before symptoms appear. This test is not yet widely available in routine clinical practice, but if you have a family history of dementia and access to advanced lipid or biomarker panels, ask your doctor about p-tau 217. The window for intervention is now, not when symptoms appear. And now the final twist, the one that reframes everything. Every single one of these 7 signs shares a common upstream driver: chronic inflammation, impaired lymphatic clearance from poor sleep, blood sugar volatility damaging cerebral capillaries, insulin resistance spreading into neurons. These are not separate risk factors for dementia. They are the same metabolic dysfunction we have covered across this entire channel, showing up in your brain years before any diagnosis is possible. The interventions that protect your metabolic health are the interventions that delay or prevent dementia: fasting to lower insulin, walking to improve cerebral blood flow, sleep protection to activate lymphatic clearance, anti-inflammatory diet to reduce neuroinflammation. You are not just protecting your waistline, you are protecting your mind. Starting today, drop a comment and tell me, did any of these 7 signs surprise you? I want to know. And if this video made you think about your brain health differently, subscribe.